Welcome to the Mindrise Podcast, the catalyst that takes you from who you are right now to all that you can become. Hey everyone. So this is a conversation that I've been looking forward to having with you guys. Being bold enough to make a change, being bold enough to step into the unknown. So Gunther and I have known each other for years, but a couple weeks ago we ran into each other at the coffee shop, and with a simple wave, he said to me, "I retired." And I looked at him and I'm like, "You're not 40 yet. How did you retire?" So I'm excited to jump in with Dr. Gunther Heyder to talk about what it means to make a change. So Gunther Heyder is a father, a husband, and a multifaceted entrepreneur who knows firsthand the balance between success and struggle. And in this episode, Gunther opens up about recently stepping away from his dental practice and sharing the reasons behind his decision, the challenges that he's faced, and the positives that come with change. So tune in for a very candid conversation with a good friend of mine on how to manage life's highs, lows, and dig deep into self-understanding to truly define what it means to succeed. But I'm so excited to have you here today. It definitely came as a surprise running into you at the coffee shop and having you, like, the next word out of your mouth after hi was, "I've retired." That caught me by surprise. So can we jump in? Let's start with the big move, retiring early at 39, almost 40. Most people are just hitting their stride in their career. So what led you to making that decision, and how did it feel to have the courage to step away?
That's a great question. First off, thanks for having me here. I feel fortunate to be able to be part of your podcast. I was going to kind of redefine one of the words. I'm not retired. I'm retired from the present chapter, but I'm on a sabbatical. Using that word makes me feel as if this is like an intentional pause that I'm taking for the reasons that we'll kind of talk about here today. But I've always had in my mind and manifested as much as possible to be able to work really hard, grind really hard. And I'm fortunate, and I'll speak about that in the next 30 minutes or so, but about just being able to be present with my family and taking the strides in my life right now to be putting forth the effort of what I think is best.
Gunther, you make a great point, because I do think that there's a gift in defining however we're going to phrase it, right? So I'm tossing out the word retired to you, and I'm with you with retired, sabbatical, whatever we want to call it, right? We get to own that definition.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I know you know my daughter, and she's done cheer for a while. And then after the season, when she was like top of her game, there she's flying, she's flipping, she's doing all the things. She turns to me and she says, "Mama, I think I'm going to retire from cheer." I looked at her, I was like, "Okay." Right. And then she said, "So I'm just, I'm doing that thing where I'm not trying to laugh because I know she's having a serious moment with me, but I'm inside, I'm like, I'm rolling over." And
Yeah.
she said, "Well, I want to put my focus on dance."
Yeah.
And true to her word, she's signed up for more dance classes, but her definition at that moment was that chapter felt complete or fulfilled for her at the moment. Um,
Mhm.
so for you, like, what has that been like to choose what language that you want to use around, whether it's retire, it's sabbatical, it's midlife crisis, I mean, whatever you want to call it, right? Because I'm sure that we all have a different definition, but how did you choose that language?
You write your own narrative. It's something I've been learning over this whole path. Um, I won't act like I'm enlightened, that I'm this existential being but I do find that I've had to understand that when you're going through things that are not going as well as you want them to, or you are not getting to spend as much time with your family, or you are wanting to put forth the effort more into other things, that's a sabbatical and that's your choice. And so I've tried to have change my narrative to what I want in life. I now have a 2 and 4 month old child. My wife won't allow me to say 2 and a half, which is too emotional for her. But a 2 year and 4 month little girl that has absolutely changed my mindset of the grind. I've always been very intentional with what I do, and I always know that if I invest early with whatever within myself, within my family, it's going to pay dividends as we get older. And right now, I'm absolutely investing in my family. So this is my sabbatical. That's the term I'm using. This is my phase of life, my season of life, if you want to call it, that it's going to be able to give me forth the effort to, or ability to spend time with my family, which is the most important thing that I want to do right now. So retirement is just, I'm retiring from that phase of my life. I could start up in another 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 years, depending on what I want to do. But at this time right now, I've chosen to write my own narrative, take away a little bit from the suffering of the daily grind, and know that I can change that myself.
Right. I love that, Gunther. Like, what's true for you right now?
Mhm.
Right? There was a time like pre-COVID when I was flying and speaking all over the place, and that felt very true for me in the way in which I built the business. Now in this season, and I love that you've used that word because I think that's something everyone needs to kind of put in their pocket and define for themselves. But in this season, I don't want to miss picking her up or dropping her off, right? She's 10. I'm not getting 10 back again. So
Yeah,
in this season, and that might evolve at another point in time where I hit the throttle on either this or something else, but I'm with you. Like, what's true right now?
right now. And until becoming a father, I didn't understand that.
Mm.
I was, and I still am trying to learn how to not want more and more and more.
That's a
So
good point.
the capitalistic business, also known as America, is telling us to be more and more and more. And when you're in it, you're like, I need more and more and more. And it wasn't making me happier, and it wasn't bringing me joy. And so the only thing that was bringing me happiness and joy is my nuclear family here, which is my wife and child. And so that's what you have to kind of figure out is what do you want? Like what do you want your life to be? It's a very short life we're living here, and what do you want it to be?
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. So you built a successful dental practice, right, in partnership. And that's something that so many people would absolutely love to do.
yeah,
And we also know that success can come with sacrifice.
absolutely.
Looking back, like what trade-offs were you making and how do you think about them now?
That's a great question. I'll start off by saying that I've lived a very privileged life. All right. I've been able to have parents that have guided me in the right direction, brother and sister that guided me in the right direction. I'm a white male but from a small town here in Northeast North Carolina. And so there have been obstacles in life, but I've had parents allow me like, hey, when I want to get off track, they've guided me back there. So I'll never sit here and say that what I've had in my life and what I've built was because of my 100% hard work. I've had to give up things in life, but I've tried to be very intentional with what I've done. Like I'm a very functional person, so everything I do is for a function. I mean, I don't go out gardening because, yeah, I do love it and it's very calming and mindful and stuff, but everything's very intentional in what I'm trying to do because I know it's going to benefit me in the future. But when I'm building a business, and that's not the only business that I was helping build, I have other businesses around. I've had to give up time. I've had to give up my mental health and I've had to give up my physical health. Dentistry is incredibly demanding on the mental, emotional, and physical side. And so I've like, how many dentists do I know that have had back surgery? How many of them are severely depressed because it is this constant negative empathy that you're having to absorb from your patients? Only a few percent of people come in, I love you. Not too many people say that to the dentist. It's just this like generalized feeling of, hey, it's not the best place to work, but they do reward you with freedom of time and freedom of finances. So those are big things that you're willing to give up. There comes a time that you have both of those and you want more time, and so you have to really balance out what you're doing.
Right, right, right. Well, and I think that that language around trade-off is important in the sense that there are different trade-offs. And like we were talking about before, there are different trade-offs for different seasons. I
Yeah.
mean, when I started the business, I was absolutely grinding, but it was for a purpose. And in that season, I wasn't a parent, and I had this time. So I'm with you. There are certain trade-offs, and there are times in which I don't know. I saw this video once, and it was showing. It was an exercise that they did with a bunch of high schoolers, and they had everybody stand on a line. I don't know if you've seen this, but whoever was guiding it, a gym teacher or guidance counselor, and what they said was, if you and fill in the blank and take a step forward, take a step back. And some of the things were like if you were, born in a household with two parents, or if you were born in a family with addiction, or take a step forward, take a step back.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that you're honoring, like, hey, yes, I grind and I worked really hard and I didn't do this on my own.
Yeah.
I had a lot of support because sometimes we are born with a support system where it's just like we've got a whole line of defense and support around us. And then other times we are looking to build our support system around us.
Yes. That's well said because yeah, absolutely. I agree that I've had a great support system. It has allowed for me not to feel like I don't have anything to fall back on. Um, However, in the life that I've lived, I've been very fortunate, and also the life that I'm living right now, I feel like because I don't live in the past, nor do I live in the drama-filled world that we live in, and I'm not surrounding myself with the suffering, and that's by choice. I think that goes a long way too. And I feel like we're living in a world right now that everyone seems to be suffering from one thing or the other.
Gunther, you make a good point, and I think that goes, in my personal opinion, I think that goes beyond politics. I
Yeah.
think that, and I remember being a kid and watching this PBS show called Slim Goodbody. I don't know if you ever saw this. It was like an early 90s situation.
I
And
was
he,
watching Arthur at that time.
right, Arthur, that was PBS. But he would wear a whole suit, and it would be like a muscle suit or a circulatory system suit. And one of the things that I remember him saying, and we've all heard it, is you are what you eat. And sure, he was talking about Twinkies versus carrots at the time, but I
Yeah.
love the point that you're making that we are in large part what we're consuming. Right? So if we're consuming a lot of negativity or a lot of noise or a lot of naysayers, and we look around and that's the majority of the volume that we hear, well, then how are we going to feel inside?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
it
hard.
makes
It's not easy to do that because it's addictive.
100%, a
Yeah,
hundred
absolutely.
percent. I mean, another saying is misery loves company, right?
Absolutely.
And it can be true, unfortunately.
We've all been victims of it.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So, a lot of our listeners are high achievers who find themselves stuck in the grind. They're burned out, and sometimes they don't feel like they can see a way out. So, what would you say to someone who's successful on paper, right? Their LinkedIn looks super sexy, bank account might be two thumbs up, but ultimately they feel trapped.
I can only speak for myself. And with saying that is I can see how the trap happens. I have family members that are in the corporate world that I speak to daily or weekly, and they are in the grind and they don't think there's another option. I have to do this. I should do this. A lot of shoulds on themselves. You get to a point that you have to find out what's your, like, where's your investment? Is your investment in yourself? Is the investment in your business? Is the investment in your family? And you can do all those equally, relatively well. But there comes a time that you're like, you know what? I want to invest more in X. And so right now in my life, I want to invest more in my family. I have had time to be with my daughter and my wife more so than other people. I feel very fortunate for that because of the dynamics of what owning the practices and businesses give me. But I also am now making a choice to step away and recalibrate myself so that I can actually figure out what is going to be the most important. What, like right now, I know this, right? There's not one person in this freaking world that has been like, you know what, I wish I would have worked harder, or I wish I would have spent less time with my child. And as I'm turning 40, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, my back hurts. I can barely touch my toes. I hurt when I get up out of bed. When I'm doing these long 4 or 5 hour surgeries, I'm like, this is great. It's egotistical. I'm helping this patient out. But now I'm trying to recalibrate myself, I'm trying to get my body back, my mind back, my emotional side back, and give all that to my family. And so that's kind of been what I tell people. They're like, why are you doing it? I'm like, you know what? I don't need more money, ego, identity of being a dentist. I just need more family time, sitting out back on a Thursday, what was it, a Friday morning, would have sat out on the back porch. Like, that's great. And I know everyone's like, oh, you can do it because you're a dentist, or you can do it because you did this, or because you had an easier thing. But it's my choice to do that. And I'm making a choice to be able to have this ability. So that's what I would tell people is the grind is real. Get there. You don't need more. Figure out ways to invest your money in a positive way, even 50 bucks, 100 bucks. I set up different programs throughout my staff at the dental practice to be able to make sure that even 50 bucks, 100 bucks they're doing a month will grow to be something beneficial. It doesn't take a lot. It just takes smart moving. Because as I tell them, a millionaire could be a millionaire, but they spend $1 million a year. They're still just as poor as someone that makes 50,000 that saves 20,000 of that a year.
Right. Right. Yes. And I'm especially highlighting some of the words you said around choice and
Mhm.
recalibration. Right? We have to remember that we can choose, anything from what we put on in the course of a day or who we decide to spend our time with or how
Yeah.
we decide to allocate our time. And again, not taking away from sometimes there are seasons where we need to hustle
Mhm.
and check in with yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're making a great point. Do you need more? Who is defining what the goal is? Have you actually defined it, or are you just kind of chasing the carrot rather than working toward, right, the top of the mountain? Yeah, there's a whole mountain range, but let me just get there first and then assess. Like, do I feel satiated? Is this what I want? What choice is for me next?
Yeah. It's a lot of self work you have to do to get here. You have to go through, like, as Viktor Frankl says, he's like, you have to struggle and suffer to be able to see the real meaning of life. And so little struggles, big struggles, whatever it may be, gets you to a next level because you then build this great callus in yourself to be able to wear a lot of the brutality of life. Um, I just tell people, just be true to yourself. And if you don't know how to do that, take away one of the layers, take away the identity of your professional life. That is the number one question that people ask is, what do you do? And all of a sudden that forms our identity.
Right,
So I'd say take that layer off and find out what's underneath of it. The second layer, the third layer, see if you want to work on that a little bit more than your first layer.
right. Well said. Well said. So
Thanks.
I know that throughout this interview, like you've been talking about wanting to be present for your daughter, for your wife, for your growing family, right?
Yeah.
How has becoming a parent shaped the way you view time, success, or even, and I love to toss in this word, legacy, right? What we're passing on, whether that's through our life lessons or our bank account. Like, how has being a parent shaped you?
I didn't know I was going to love being a parent as much as I do. I knew it was going to be a chapter of my life that I was really excited for. I'd planned for it. I had worked really hard for it. I'd gotten ourselves as stable as possible in most platforms. I didn't know that fatherhood was going to bring me even more joy than I had already had with my wife. And now the three of us combined, we're like so stoked on it. Like I'm just the smitten father that's running around showing a picture of my daughter. I didn't think I'd be the person to immediately see some, hey, look at my daughter. Look at this. I'm ecstatic about it. Like that's more exciting to me than going around what I used to do and be like, look at this cool case I just did. Look at this patient that's smiling or whatever it may be. Fatherhood has brought me this new understanding of what life is about. When you look at a non-ideological view of why we are here, it's to reproduce. And some people choose to, some people have a hard time with it, and some people aren't fortunate to be able to do that. So I'm not saying that this is the end all of life, but I'm saying that it has, for me, changed the way that I kind of view how I want to live this seasonality of life. I also want to leave, as you said, a legacy. I'd rather leave a legacy of fatherhood and family than hustle and
Right.
teaching hustle rather than teaching them that I was going to be gone most of the time. So that's kind of, I'm glad you said about legacy because I think about most fathers that we
Right.
grew up with. Their legacy was being there to work for their family, to bring the money in, to be the breadwinner. Things have changed. My wife runs a business just like yourself. And so she's the breadwinner at this moment. So it's really nice to have that change that we can kind of bond over and work with.
Right. I mean, you make a good point. Family looks different than
Yeah.
it has even when we were growing up. And I think that we are to use the phrase redefining it yet again. Like we are redefining and defining what feels good for us.
Yeah.
There are so many different ways to do family. And it is largely what we're passing on and being cognizant of what we're passing on, and that being the definition of legacy.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
So now that you've stepped away from the practice, you're in an in-between space, and you made a point before, like the practice isn't your only business. You have multiple businesses. But so talk to us about this in-between space. You're not grinding, right? You're showing everybody pictures of your daughter. But you're also not exactly sure, like, and this is what's 100% next. How are you navigating that uncertainty? Is that freaking you out, or is that something that's exciting? Is it curiosity? Is it anything in between? What's your take? How are you navigating this space that you're in?
It's a great therapeutic question. I won't use this time as therapy. However, um, it's tough. It is tough, especially this is all very new to me since I was a kid, 4 years old. I'm going around picking up pine cones to make $1. And so now my primary professional career is been put on a hold, and I have these other projects to kind of work on. So right now, it is a weird place to be in. A, you know that a lot of your life has been evolved around dentistry, about working with the patients, about working with the staff, and getting up every single morning, getting to work, and then coming home, being overloaded from the empathetic aspect of being a doctor of the mouth. And I find it to be overly challenging and, however, inspirational to look deeper inside myself.
Mm,
Because all of a sudden, I've taken that first layer off. I've taken the identity of being a dentist. And I don't ask first to people like, what do you do? Like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do for fun? That's what I want. That's how I find out a person. But it come back to your question of how does this make me feel? Fearful, excited, worrisome. It's a ebb and flow of emotions. And so a lot of people are saying, congratulations. And I'm not there yet. I'm not at the time of being like, congratulations for like just taking a step back. Yes, congratulations of making the choice of being with your family, making that a priority. Um, I find that it has been a multitude of emotions that I've had to talk to a lot of people about, to have long talks with my wife, who is very open about making sure she can help navigate these feelings. And being able to spend that time with my family has allowed for me to be like, all right, this was the right choice. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, everyone, and saying that this was an easy go, like at it. It was something I've been working for a long time, is to build this practice up with my brother, to make it one of the biggest and best, and then to leave that all behind is scary. But it's something that I'm willing to do to figure out what the next chapter might hold.
right. I love that. And I love the honesty and vulnerability here, Gunther,
Yeah.
because so many people, especially when we're designed as achievers, like you said, being a little kid and picking up pine cones for $1. I mean, I remember having a lemonade stand, and I was like, everybody's doing lemonade. I'm gonna do mud and leaves. And when my neighbor gave me $5, I thought I really hit on something. Closed up
Yep.
shop, like I was good. I was done for the day. But when we're always driven, right? Driven to please, or driven to achieve, or driven toward the accolade, to the ego stroke, to the like whatever's the fuel. And when you go to pivot and change the fuel, change the impetus, change the perspective, by and large, there's no playbook. Like no one's handing that to you. I think in large part
Yeah.
we do, like the playbook was, here's the syllabus, right? Here's the office hours. Sit in the front row if you want to do well, right? We have had that programmed into us for a really long time. And for achievers, by and large, it either comes easily or we work our butts off and it is hard fought and hard won, but it's still ours. So
Yeah.
making a change, and I appreciate your vulnerability, but it's terrifying and it's exhilarating. We're doing both
Yeah.
at the same time, right? I think about Forrest Gump. Like life is a box of chocolates at this moment right now.
There is. People look at you like you're 39 years old and you're quote unquote retiring from your primary professional career. What do you think? I'm like, I'm not retiring. I'm literally being intentional about going and spending this time with my child before she turns 3. And then if we have another one, then we be able to spend time with that little thing if we're fortunate enough to have a second one. And so that is my choice. And so at 39, I'm not retiring. That's why I changed the terminology. I'm working towards this chapter in life, and I'm going to work really hard at it because I've done this in chapters, and it isn't a straight line. Life is not a straight line. It's a bunch of zigzags that are happening all over the damn place. So for me, I'm this is my change right now that I'm taking. I don't know what the future holds. And as much as I don't want to live in the past, nor do I want to live in the future. And that's what I'm living right now, is trying to be as present as possible. But for someone like myself, I plan out every single thing. I'm like, we need to start working here so we can get to this, and then we need to get pregnant this month so we can have a child in this month. Like, so it is a way for me to challenge myself.
Right.
I take away, divorce the societal pressure that I have to be able to take this off, knowing that I chose a career that is now making me stable enough to be able to do this and our family okay for however long we need to. That's kind of what I've always wanted, and so I've manifested that as best as possible.
Right. 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 So, I've been working on the third book and we've got a publishing deal.
Congrats.
Woo-hoo. And so this book is tentatively titled Wrecking Ball Revolution. And essentially, like, what we're talking about in the book is having that courage when life's not bad, right? People will make changes when life's bad. And we got plenty of books about life being bad. But like, what happens when you realize that what you've been grinding toward isn't what you want long term? And that you have to have the courage to pivot, to make a change. What
Mhm.
do we do then? So I'm curious for you, Gunther, like, was there a turning point? Was there a moment when you realized that the life that you were building wasn't necessarily what you wanted long term? Because sometimes we do have the aha or like the straw that broke the camel's back, and sometimes it's everything coming together. But I'm curious for you, was there a moment?
I think since I was in my late 20s and I started practicing when I was 26 years old, I barely had a shave back then, and I was telling myself I was Dr. Hyder. I was like, they're like, sure you are. I was like, no, trust me. I hit puberty one of these days. Uh, I feel like I told myself that I did not want to be a 65-year-old white male with money in his back pocket, with a broken back and a broken marriage and kids that didn't see me. We hear about that. The previous generation was that.
Yes.
Now that I've gone through this, I'll change to other terminology, and then not a midlife crisis, but a midlife awakening, that is allowing for me to awaken and see what the hell are we doing? Like, why are we gonna do this? If the world is changing as fast as we possibly can,
Right.
we can't even stay up with it. Like, we should be changing too. We're still stuck in this old rhetoric of we need to work as long as we possibly can to retire for those X amount of years. So in my early 30s, late 20s, I said, I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can and invest every single dollar and not spend a dime driving around a 1988 F-150 for most of the time that I've known each other. That was cost $1,500 so that that money that I make can then be invested so I can do this. Once again, that's being very fortunate that I have the career to be able to allow me to do that, but it's also making choices. So was there a time that was like, I need to get out of it? I've been thinking about getting out since I got in and
Mm,
making a plan. Not because I knew I didn't want to be a dentist, because I still love being a dentist and I still love building practices and being a good clinician. But I also am finding myself saying, I needed to do that part so it will equate to this part. And
right.
now this part, which will then give me the rehabilitation and recalibration to be able to go into the next step a lot more clear-minded and focus on what I truly want. I was in the path of school, 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 dentist, work, 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 work. Where was the time going to be that I was going to be like, whoa, I got to detach from that and get out of this orientation and this organized process that we have been doing. 21st century is allowing for us to see that we did not have to do exactly what the last previous generation did.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Right.
why I
Right.
started a nonprofit when I was 27 years old. I was like, I don't want to be 6 years old feeling like I need to give back to the world. I started going over to Africa when I was 20 years old. And now I've been over there dozens of times so that I had that experience because I never know when Mother Earth's going to take me. So I feel like right now I'm trying to get it all done now.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's listening, I'm going to make sure I put the nonprofit in the show notes so you guys can go and check it out because I'm with you, Gunther. I think that there is a world in which, and even if we're thinking about that movie Sliding Doors, there is a world in which you could fast forward and be 65 years old with fat pockets of cash and a broken back and a broken marriage and kids that like barely know your middle name, right?
Yeah.
There is a world in which that very much could have been the outcome. But like we've been talking about throughout this episode, recalibration, choice, having an awakening, right? An
Mhm.
awakening doesn't have to come with the diagnosis or the death of a loved one. We can choose, like, hey, this isn't quite working for me. Or frankly, if we don't even know that it's not working for us, we just be like, how do I feel? This doesn't feel good, right? So, for those who are listening and they're wondering if they can hit pause or pivot in their own life, what mindset shifts or practical steps that helped you to build your career that gave you the freedom to choose? Like what would you offer to them?
It's a great question. And as I tangent, bring me back to the question. But I'm a big tangenter. We have been told that we needed to do A through Z and how we do it. And I keep on kind of hitting on this.
Right.
I'm being different by stepping outside the box. My friends here in town, they joke me all the time, oh, Gunther's not doing anything. It's only been a week since I've taken a step back, but they're like, oh, he's just retired. That's why he's hanging out on a Friday morning. Life has different paths for different people. And I find myself trying to figure out what do I want to do with the life I'll lead. And so for what was the major question you asked real quick? I told you I was going to
Like
tangent.
any mindset shifts
Yeah,
or
mindset
practical
shifts.
steps that you would say, like, hey, you know what? After listening to this episode, put this one in your pocket.
If you have the ability to take a step back, both emotionally and mentally and egotistically and financially, it's your choice. It's absolutely your choice to do that. It's your choice to figure out what your next chapter holds. If you have the spending, if you spend too much money, that's why you got to keep working. You got to be frugal if you want to do this. Yeah, you really do. You got to start investing at the time. There's never a bad time to invest. Get that money into something, start that working for you. That's what I coach people on how to invest their money, very simplistic way. So they can be diversified and they can live a little bit easier. They don't have to work as hard. And I try to get people that even think they can invest to start investing.
Mm.
That's the passive income that allows for people to take a step back. But if you don't have that or haven't started that, do a little financial intelligence for yourself. Ask ChatGPT, hey, teach me the basics 101 of investing. How can I get myself set up? Have I set up enough stuff for my children's college, the 529s? Whatever it may be, getting some information to you and not being so monofocused on your profession, but reaching out there and diversifying yourself and diversing the way that you want to be. And not just I'm a CPA. Great, you're a CPA. I'm a lawyer. Great, you're a lawyer. But you got to be able to say, I'm an investor, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a parent, and be confident that you invested enough time in those things because they will pay rewards. They will absolutely pay rewards. When my daughter smiles at me, she knows that I'm not leaving again in the morning. That's a reward. I'm only 7 days or 8 days past not being that person, but for the past 8 days of her not having to say, bye, Papa, when I'm leaving for work, that's a big
Right.
deal. That's investment that's on return. I know ROI is already proving itself. So to put in the pocket is invest early, um, be true to yourself, and unwrap your first outer layer and be able to decloak it so that you can figure out what's your next thing that's the most important. Because most of the time, at the age of 39, your career is the most important
Sure.
for people such as yourself and myself that are entrepreneurs and want to push. So I would say take a step back and figure out who you are deep inside. And I bet you haven't looked inside for a long time.
Right, right. Defining that downshift, is it right? And even being able to, as you're talking about, understand that we're multifaceted, right? If you asked your daughter to color a picture and you only gave her a blue crayon, well, guess what? The tree's blue, the sky is blue, the house is blue, the car is blue, everything's going to be blue.
Yeah.
But when
Great.
we understand ourselves as multifaceted beings, then we have access to maybe not the 96 pack of crayons, but at least the eight. And we've got some options of the way in which we are defining ourselves and defining what makes us fulfilled and defining what makes us happy.
I know it's a challenge because most people will say it's easy for you to do this because your childhood, the education, the dentistry, the finances. And yes, they are correct. I have had most likely an easier path than other people have had. But it doesn't take away the fact that I can finally get myself. And maybe that's because I have freedom of time that I can then have freedom of creativity and to figure out who I am. I'm not in the grind as much anymore. And I can then figure out what's going on. So I ask people to, yes, you are in the grips of time and the grips of professional life, especially in your 30s and 40s. Try to release that and slow yourself down. And slow yourself down on the weekends. You don't have to go to every birthday or every party or every place in the world or every whatever it is. Take a second to spend that quality time. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. This is something I've never said in my life. My wife to be very happy about this right now that I'm saying quantity over quality. I was quality over quantity. But I've then had to figure out how do I stop the 40 different snowballs that I started at the top that I keep on pushing down? How do I turn 40 into 30? And sort of be introspective of what are the most important things.
Right,
You
right,
can
right.
still have 30 balls going down the snow hill. I don't want just one. I'm not that. That's not my personality.
Right. You have to honor who you are and
Exactly.
just take a step back. Take a step back, take an inventory. So you've shared a lot about your journey, both the discipline that it took to build your career, build your practice, and the courage that it took to walk away. So looking back, what do you think that you got right? And what would you do differently if you were starting over?
I The biggest financial decision in your life is who you marry.
Mm.
That will help a lot. That has allowed for me to be where I'm at right now. The support. I also think support from the family has been key. Um, I talked a lot about it. What are some key words that you were just hitting on?
Right, like choice and recalibration and,
Hmm?
just being able to understand that we are multifaceted.
Yeah. And I feel like if I wouldn't have taken a step back, I wouldn't be able to have time. And so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it allows for me to kind of see life a little bit different. And this is my season of life to do this.
Right, right, right. So it sounds like in terms of, thinking about what you would do differently if you were starting over, like
Yeah.
you did have a good run. And it sounds like as you were going along, one of the key things that you kept in your pocket that you kept coming back to, sometimes more consciously than others, was having insight and introspection over like this move is going to influence this next decision and how is the choice that I'm making going to contribute to my overall picture and do
Yeah.
I like that picture?
Most people are too scared to step outside their own box.
There we
Most
go.
people are too worried of trying to start their own thing. People, we are not like the high percentage of people that are our age that are working doing our things are on a plateau and they're trying to get to the next level, the next carrot, the next carrot. But if you just simply push yourself a little bit harder in what you want to become, you are already going to be top percent of that. There's not, or that most people do not push themselves, especially in this world of slight laziness and ability to kind of get on your phone. Just push yourself a little bit harder. If you want to become a better tennis player, if you want to become a better father, you want to become a better painter, just push yourself a little bit farther. Do a little more research, some more, invest a little more time, and you all of a sudden be like, "Oh, I'm actually pretty good at this." Don't think you're a pro at it. Um, I do not regret anything in life, and that's not because I had an easy go. I had a lot of obstacles, and I don't necessarily believe in fate. I believe that this is the road that I'm taking, And this is kind of how I've done it. And I've been strong enough internally to be able to move forward with each one of these different challenges that I've had. So regretting everything, do I do anything again? Maybe I wouldn't have talked back to that police officer that one time. Maybe I wouldn't have like gotten to the car with the wrong person that having drink or something like that. Those are things that you regret, like the more
Right.
acute things that you want to take back. Maybe I should have hugged this person harder or been a better person in my 20s in terms of talking to people and being there for people. And maybe those are things that I wish I would do a little bit better on. But I've learned from those things that's how the person I want to be.
Right.
So you can always do better. And that's just pushing yourself one step more to be better, just a little bit better. We're not asking for 100x. We're looking for 5x of the person that you are today. And that's going to be a dividend that's going to continue to return back to you.
There you go. There you go, right? Our best investment is ourselves. So before I set you free into the wild and let you go, one last question.
Yeah, should be.
So for our listeners, many of whom are high performing, but quietly questioning, like, what's next? What is that one piece of advice that you'd offer to someone who wants more freedom, but they're afraid to let go of what they've built?
I believe if you take off your outer cloak, keep using that analogy metaphor. If you take off your outer cloak and figure out what's your second and third layer, you'll be able to see it. And that's a total introspection of yourself. Like right now, I'm taking off dentist. All right. That's my top one. That's my white coat I'm taking off.
Right.
Now I'm finding that because I was ready to put that one, hang that one up. But you don't have to hang it up. You just don't have to be a person that only puts forth their effort into that one thing. Just spread it out a little bit. If it's the finances that you're worried about, then invest differently. If you can't invest, then figure out a way to make yourself better so that you're getting paid more, or you're getting more PTO, or you're getting more time with the family. You're getting more ability to go down to Disney World or go to the mountains. Investing in yourself, investing and making yourself a little bit better will give you that. And it takes a certain person to want to push yourself to do that. And it really comes down to the support that you have. If your support isn't supporting you to continue to grow, then that support's not great for you. And you might want to recalibrate y'all's relationship and do some therapy or do some type of eye-opening exercises and really working together. But when you have multiple kids, it's hard. And so like there's so much to juggle. What I tell people is take a step back, decloak your outer couple layers and figure out who you are inside. We're not looking in terms of the light that you're having or the enlightenment road that you're searching for, but you're looking for who are you and what do you really want out of this very simple, short life. And I talk to so many people every single day at the office and say, what would you have done differently? What's your favorite decade of life? How would you have done things different? I ask these open questions when I was doing my small talk with the patients. And most of the demographics here are over the age of 50 or 60. So they always have some good intel. And
Right.
those are people you want to talk to. I'm an old man at heart. So I'm like, you know what? Why am I doing it? That kind of allowed for me. I'm not surrounded by a bunch of 35-year-old millionaires that are walking around with their Range Rovers. So I'm not being like, I don't feel the keeping up with the Joneses as much as other people might. So
Right.
that's a positive for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, you want some insight? Go talk to the oldest person you can find.
That's right.
They're going to give you some lessons. They're going to take you to school.
Yeah,
This has been such a pleasure. Thank you so
it's been
much for
great.
joining us. And for everybody who's listening, I'll make sure that I'm throwing all the links as I do in the show notes for the podcast, especially to check out Gunther's nonprofit arts in Africa. And
Absolutely.
couldn't be happier to have you on and giving us a kind of a perspective of what's behind the kimono here, because this is it takes a lot of courage, and here we are.
Here we are. We're aligning, we're prioritizing, we're trying to figure it all out. All of us are in the same boat. We're all wondering what's next.
Right? Just being
Yep.
humans.
Being humans. Well, thank you very much, Bailey, for having me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Mindrise Podcast. Check out our show notes for details and to get in on the latest at Mindrise. Visit us on Instagram at the Mindrise